Well, greetings, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Duerrisms, the podcast, as presented by our friends at Advanced Physical Therapy, alongside the inimitable Matt Schuckman from Muddy River Sports, who, by the way, we discovered last week, or 2 weeks ago, as it were, has a Justin Bieber-like following upon the podcast set. Best podcast we ever did last week.
That was awesome. We had a great time doing it, and I know it got generated a lot of conversation, a lot of debate, a lot of consternation.
Ooh.
So
I like consternation.
I do too. I love it when people dig in and want to talk to you about it and have a different opinion, because I love that. I love that back and forth.
I don't want to try to catch lightning in a bottle twice, but we are going to do the fantasy draft again. And here's what's going to happen. The 20 players that we drafted, boys and girls, are now off the board.
Yeah, 10 each. We did 5-player teams. So 10 boys, 10 girls gone.
They're going to be gone. This is just sort of an exercise in the depth of tri-state basketball this season.
Let's do it.
We will do that. Before we get into that, I know you and I usually do something pop culture, but with the week that we've got, the question I have for you this week going in as a warm-up is directly basketball, because we do have the Quincy Shootout ahead of us.
Yes, we do.
And a plethora of blue-chip talent coming in.
Amazing.
In that spirit, Matt Schuckman, who is the best high school basketball player that you personally have seen play in person?
Okay, now I want to ask you this, because you and I talked about this off the air.
Right.
Are we talking Blue Devil Gym? Are we talking covering high school tri-state basketball? Or could it be beyond that?
I want to put in scope. I don't want to put any sort of containers on it.
Okay.
I want you to go, what player most electrified you, wowed you, that you've ever seen in person play?
The one that jumps out at me immediately was at the shootout in St. Louis, and I forget how many different variations of names. It was the KMOX shootout back in the day, and had a variation of names. But Teddy Dupay lit it up and electrified the crowd. Like, everybody in the entire arena was cheering for him to shoot the basketball the moment he stepped across half court. It was amazing. So that singular performance stands out to me above the myriad I've seen. Just because, I mean, you're talking, you're in the, well, I think it was the Kiel Center was the name of it at the time.
Yes.
And, I mean, you're talking 10, 12,000 people in there, all cheering for him to shoot the basketball. Because he scored 45 points in the game. I think that's what it was.
Yes, it was.
But it was amazing. You know, and that shootout had such a depth of talent. Much like Quincy's shootout, it has an incredible depth of talent. When I think of the players I've covered, games I've covered over the years, Sean Livingston stands out. You know, as far as the last 25 years of being in Blue Devil Gym, that kind of stuff. And I've seen so many good players: Richard McBride, Andre Iguodala, you know, and then the vast number of players I've seen at the state tournaments over the years.
And when you traveled to the shootouts over the holidays, I mean, you were there for Darius Miles. You saw those kind of guys play.
No question. So, I mean, Sean Livingston probably, it was interesting because he had a cult following. Like, when he came into the gym, kids were going to get his autograph as a high school kid. And obviously he went on to play professional basketball, so it made sense. I would still argue my favorite player I've ever seen play at the high school level was Bruce Douglas.
Okay, well, and that makes a ton of sense, obviously.
And granted, there's a little bit of nostalgia that comes with that.
Because you were a kid.
I was a kid. I was growing up in that era. And when we were the kids sitting in the stands in those early 80s, Michael Payne and Bruce Douglas were gods to us.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny to say that. It's funny to joke with them now. But I remember, and it's a fun story, Michael Payne was in my sister Teresa's class, graduating class of 81. The night they got inducted to National Honor Society, Mom and Dad's babysitter for me backed out. So I had to go to the induction ceremony. They were a little worried because of how rambunctious I might be. So my sister promised me if I behaved, she would introduce me to Michael Payne afterward. I was on probably the best behavior I've probably ever been on in my life.
To this day, I would guarantee.
And so I got to meet Michael Payne, and Mom still tells the story of me looking up at him. I mean, he's 6'11", and I was 8 years old, you know, and looking up at him with just those big eyes and we've seen it in kids here when those great players have come into Blue Devil Gym, and you see those kids look at those those players.
I think it's endemic of kind of the small town mentality of it all. We see little girls looking at Abby like that. We see kids in Southeastern looking at Danny like that.
No question.
It's one of those things. I will also echo your sentiment. The best player I ever saw was also at the KMOX shootout back in the day. But I got a quick story for you that you will enjoy going into that.
Okay.
I was there I was still in Jeff City working for the legendary Rod Smith and covering.
Rod's Big Old Fish.
Rod's Big Old Fish indeed. I was covering the Jeff City Jays, Monty Harge era.
Mighty Large. Monty Harge.
Yes, he was, as they were down there playing at the KMOX shootout. And I happened to be sitting on the baseline.
Okay.
And behind me were two people I think you know well. One named Norm Stewart.
Yes.
The other, the late, great Charlie Spoonhauer.
Oh, wow.
So they're sitting almost next to each other, and I'm there filming, and the Jays come down the floor, they toss the ball to Monty, and he fumbles it out of bounds. And without missing a beat, Charlie Spoonhauer goes, and I hear his voice in my head today, doing this. Norman, hey, Norman. Yeah, Charlie, what do you want? That boy's got hands like the Venus de Milo. And I looked at Charlie Spoonhauer, and he could tell I had tears streaming down my eyes when he said it. And that was one of my favorite moments of that tournament ever. But my guy would be Ronnie Fields.
Okay, yeah.
Chicago Farragut. The other guy on that team, they had some kid named Kevin Garnett on that team at the time. But Ronnie Fields was electric.
Talk about playing above the rim.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Just the kind of easy vert that you don't ever see ever in person.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just like if things had gone better, I think he would have been Michael Jordan-esque in the terms of what he could do, or at least Dominique Wilkins-esque in the way he could attack the rim. But he was unreal, and then the career went sideways, obviously.
Right. But you and I have had that opportunity to see so many different guys. And I as this conversation's going, I'm playing back state tournaments in my head, because that's where you see a lot of the elite teams that get to the state tournament. And I remember Richard McBride and Andre Iguodala with Springfield Lanphier when they played Chicago Westinghouse at the state tournament, and they were electric.
Well, I remember one day going down to cover the Blue Devils in '98. They were playing Corey Maggette in the morning, and then Palmyra, and then Palmyra at night against Duran and Kareem Rush. And it was like, this is the kind of basketball I want to watch every day.
Probably the most electric high school player I ever saw, though.
Okay.
And when we start talking above the rim moments, was Cookie Belcher.
Cookie Belcher was amazing at Mexico, and people don't remember
Went on
that.
to play at Nebraska. Yeah. What I remember is they played Maryville, the Spoof Hounds.
Yes.
Great nickname.
Yeah.
In the state championship at the Hearn Center. And Jason Brookins, who went on to play in the NFL
football, yes.
Was running back for the Baltimore Ravens. Jumped, and he was 5'11", 6 foot, jump center. And he won the tipped it to Cookie, and then curled. Cookie threw an alley-oop to Brookins for a dunk to start the game. They had 10 dunks in the state title game, and I think Cookie had 5 of them.
Mexico, Missouri, Cookie Belcher was in Slam magazine. Yeah. I mean, that tells you what people thought of Cookie Belcher coming out of tiny Mexico, Missouri, with Jason Brookins, and prior to those guys, a guy by the name of Tyronn Lue.
Tyronn Lue, yep. And then there was a point guard named, I believe Jared Thompson was his name. Skinny little white kid who everybody went, oh, there's Cookie, there's Brookins. Going up there and dunking.
Yeah.
I mean, 5'10", 5'11", and could bounce. And it was just, I mean, that was an incredible team. But those memories are very, and what I remember, there were 10,000 people for that title game in Hearn Center. Yeah. And it was half red, half green. One of the most electric atmospheres for a title game, either state I've ever seen.
So who's going to make memories for us this weekend at Blue Devil Gym in this loaded shootout that the good folks at Quincy High have put together for us? And tip of the cap, as always, to Eric Stratman.
And you'll be able, as we sit here and record this, I just posted a column about all the work Eric Stratman's done to create this event, and how his anticipation for it. He tweeted something this week on, he was watching video, and as excited as he was getting as he was watching the videos, he was hoping other people were getting as excited for this event, and he is, because the ticket sales have been phenomenal.
Excellent. Good to hear that.
That's great to hear. You could go up and down the line with Link Academy, because they've got 5 guys who have already signed Division I scholarships. They've got 4 more who have offers or are considered like within the top 25, top 30 players in their individual
respective classes.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, they are so loaded. Isaiah Harwell, point guard, sophomore from Wasatch Valley, which is coming out of Utah.
Right.
Is ranked the number 5 player in his class in the nation. Keep your eyes on him. The one I'm excited to see, and again, there's this whole, you could go up and down the line, every team. St. Rita's bringing in 3 guys who have committed to North Carolina, Illinois, and Iowa State.
It's pretty good pedigree right there.
And they're all juniors.
Yeah.
Amazing. But the one I'm anxious to see is Caden Fish out of Kansas City Staley. I've heard so many good things about him.
Against the Blue Devils on Saturday
night, that is correct. That's who the Blue Devils draw.
My understanding was that Quincy High did beat them over the summer, per Eric Stratman. So there is some vengeance, I guess, tied into this as well.
But I think it's going to be a really good matchup. Okay. I mean, you've got Quincy High has its own abundance of talent and kids that are getting college looks. Bradley Longcore III is getting Division I looks already as a sophomore. Camden Brown has offers from Division II schools, and who knows what's going to come. He's only a junior. Sure. So, and I think Dominic Clay, people are going to fall in love with him from a college coach's perspective.
Well, he shoots and he bounces. What more could you ask?
There you go. I mean, and his personality, I think Ralph Wires is opening eyes.
Yeah.
He's a kid who's come up clutch for the Blue Devils in certain circumstances and continues to give out. What he's done is he's extended his game. We've known he's been able to drive, handle the ball. He's shooting it so much better from the perimeter than we've ever seen him shoot it before. And I think it comes with age, maturity, and confidence. So face it, there's 4 games of Blue Devil Gym on Friday night, 4 at the Pit, and then 9 games of Blue Devil Gym on Saturday. Show up to all of them.
Yeah. I was just going to put in the plug for the 9 o'clock game because that is our local game traditionally.
And I love that. I love that Eric Stratman always has included one local game. And whether it's the year we had Clark County with Chandler Bevins going
which
against
was so phenomenal.
Joe Wieskamp in Muscatine, Iowa. We've had Monroe City in there. Last year you had Liberty against Dixon, which brought back Chris Harmon, the coach of Dixon, who was a Blue Devil.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a touch to the shootout that as great as all this national talent is, and we're going to be wowed, and it's going to be amazing and all those things, having that local tie just adds a little something to it, something special to it, because he's picking the right teams every year.
He is. And the Ellsbury team that was so touted preseason, stumbled out of the gate against Palmyra, has gotten back right very quickly. And the Turnbull kid is going to be tough to handle for Danny. It's not an easy matchup either
Kyle
way.
Turnbull's 6'5",
and super strong at the point of attack. So really interesting matchup there. By the way, as we talk about the Quincy shootout, that was inspired by the old Quincy University shootout, which before my time, obviously, but I've heard such wonderful stories about people going and watching great college basketball.
You're talking about the Mart Heinen Holiday Tournament?
Yes,
sir. Yes.
And what that was.
Yeah.
Quincy University basketball has been really interesting in a way that I think even is ahead of schedule for what Steve Hawkins said. And as we record this in advance of tonight's huge game with UMSL, a team that this group of players has not beaten, obviously, in their tenure, which is right on the checklist behind Truman State.
Yeah.
Are you a believer yet in what they've been able to do, that this town is better when they're relevant and interesting the way they are?
Oh, no question. And it's a little disappointing from a fan perspective.
Okay.
Sitting there the other night, watching them beat Drury. It was a Monday night.
Sure.
It's
the back end of an NBA type run.
And an odd night for college basketball in town.
Right.
But I would have loved to see the place fuller. You know, more fans in the stands. And because I think what they're doing at Quincy University is very refreshing to where things have been. And you can see the growth already in this group. And the fact of the matter is, and it's funny to talk to Coach Hawkins, he's not totally thrilled with how they're playing because they're still trying to get the culture the way he and Tim Walsh want it. And they're going to get there. But the play of the younger kids has been remarkable. I think they're ahead of schedule for some of them. There's still some that are projects that they're working on and getting up to that level. But the older guys, Malik Hartman didn't play the other night because of an ankle. He's supposed to play tonight as we tape this. He's supposed to play against UMSL. But Paul Zelinskis, Jamari Coakley, Solomon Gustafson, the guys who stuck around are having really good years.
And that's not an easy thing to do. It's not just basketball. No. You sign up for a culture and an experience, and when it changes midstream, There are all kinds of feelings of dislocation.
They have so embraced it.
Okay.
They've so embraced what Coach Hawkins wants out of this program and the culture he wants the program to be, that's why they're having success. The older guys are embracing it, want to play for him. They've committed to him. They've gone all in with him. And the younger guys, too. And the younger guys are talented.
Yeah. Is there anything more endemic of that, Matt, just in the fact that they're so good offensive rebounding despite not having the profile of a team that looks like it can offensive rebound?
Just go after it.
Yeah.
And if you can get guys to play that hard, that's what you get. And I think that's part of the culture. It's getting guys to play that hard for each other. It's who cares who gets the stats? Who cares? I mean, their leading scorers averaging 13 points a game. You're not
balance.
There's not 18, 20 points a game because I got to have the ball. I'm going to go lead us. It's balance. It's playing for each other. And I saw that Wednesday night at John Wood as well. Obviously, Jeremiah Talton's putting up big numbers. Logan Robbins had 21 points it was their conference opener against Spoon River. But other guys contributed. And it wasn't about numbers. It was about sharing the basketball. 22 assists on 28 field goals.
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, they had 13 assists on 14 field goals in the second half when they pulled away.
That's an interesting dynamic for a team that is pulling a bunch of disparate guys together.
Right.
And we forget it's only January.
Yes.
It is still relatively early on the Brad Hoyt developmental calendar.
This is where it kicks off.
Yeah.
This is where, because conference play is from day one, when those kids step on campus, he talks about the importance of conference play. And it started on Wednesday night. And now they go on the road for 3 straight conference games. If they can win 2 of those, wow, they'll put themselves ahead of the rest of the league. But this is a team that could get back to the national tournament very easily.
Slight college sidebar. I know they stubbed their toe a little bit coming out of the holiday gate, but the Culver Stockton women were very good in the first half of the season, and a lot of that was centered on the return of Mackenzie Lathram.
Correct.
Culver Stockton with a local talent is a much better, more sellable product, especially when they were playing the way they were playing.
And again, we talk about local talent, and the Culver Stockton women are an example of what local talent can do for you as far as interest level.
Right.
We've seen it at Quincy University where the local talent, when it goes somewhere else, comes back, draws in a big crowd. Corey Miller.
Yeah.
And I know that rankled some of the QU
I'm sure it did.
administrators and stuff because, look, here's all these people to see somebody else from some other school coming in. Well, the fact of the matter is you can't just recruit local and go, that's going to win.
Yeah.
One, they've got to be the right fit.
Sure.
And and we're not talking just basketball. That's across the board. That's baseball. That's soccer. That's football. That's everything. But if you recruit the right local kids, the ones that fit, and get them to come in, it only enhances your program.
Even if they went somewhere else first and realized maybe the grass isn't greener away from home.
Could you hear it all the time when a local athlete signs with a Division I school or signs with someone else, and it's like, well, they could fall back here. Well, yeah, they could. Don't sell it short that they're not going to go wherever they're going and have success. But we've seen it happen.
Yeah.
And that local fan base means so much.
Let's talk a little bit about high school basketball quickly before we get to our draft. Anything really strike your fancy in the last couple of weeks? I know we had some tournaments, obviously the Winchester tournament. We have North Shelby and the Tony Lanzini going on.
Right.
Anything really stick out to Matt Schuckman in the last couple of days?
I think a couple things.
Okay.
Jacksonville Route, the number 1 ranked team in Class 1A, is really good.
They are.
But they're not unbeatable. And I think that's the thing that showed me. Cane Point Central gave them a really tight game. Payson Seymour took them to overtime. Yes, they won those games.
Griggsville Perry gave them a load the other night.
So, fact of the matter is, they're winning those games,
Yeah.
which is a sign of a team that's really good. They find ways to win those games, but they're not blowing people away.
Okay.
So I think that what it sets up is a really interesting postseason because you're going to have Route, you're going to have Central, you're going to have Brown County, you're going to have Griggsville Perry, you're going to have Southeastern. All these teams, and it's like, even if you are number 1, doesn't mean you're unbeatable.
Right.
So that's interesting. Same thing holds true for Quincy Notre Dame girls. I know they're steamrolling people right now and playing at a very high level. As we tape this, 20-1 on the season. But their postseason path is
it's a monster.
loaded with landmines.
Yeah.
So I don't want to pencil anybody in
Okay.
for getting to Redbird or getting to Champaign or anything like that, because there's so much parity and so many good teams and so many teams that could win on any given night. I think all those things. The Central Southeastern Lady Panther Classic was an example of that. I know Central Southeastern's playing at a very high level, but you saw Unity lose twice. Brown County's playing really well. You know, I know Illini West is not having the year it has in the past, but with the type of talent they have, they could sneak up and bite somebody. I mean, just across the board, there's so much parity. It's a lot of fun to watch, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the postseason plays out.
One more for you on the Missouri side, just
Yes.
a little bit, because we have seen some spikes and some ebbs and flows
Yeah.
over there. And I don't know that there's really the team yet to emerge
No.
from either the boys or the girls side over there.
I don't either. I like the Palmyra boys. I like what they're doing. Are they?
Is that some of that Brian Ray? Is that some of that built to their specifications?
Well, I think he's taken what he does well and instilled a culture already in his second year at Palmyra, but he's also embraced what he has.
Okay.
And used those pieces in the right place. And I know seeing Trace Miser drop 11 threes in a game is a great thing, but it's how they win other than that. It's, again, we talk about unselfishness. Bear Bach is one of the prime examples of that. He could go out and be the leading scorer every night if he really wanted to say, okay, I'm going to go do it. But he's unselfish. He goes and battles for rebounds. Across the board, those guys are that way. So I think that's what makes them unique. The Canton girls are the one that intrigued me as a team that could make a run. Obviously, you have Nariah Clay, who's very good. Macy Glasgow, Macy Fisher. You know, they know how to win. They've done it in softball.
Sure, they have.
You know, and I'm anxious to see what their future holds, because they're a team, I think, that's just going to continue to climb and get better.
Which brings us to our draft.
Let's go.
You've had time to prepare. I did not surprise you this time.
No.
Which, you know, let's be honest. I thought, the biggest tilting point on the boys' side in our draft was you thought you were sneaking Camden Brown past me around, and I grabbed him ahead of you.
True, and I caught a lot of heck for that.
I'm sure you did.
I was told, so the question or the comment made to me was everybody expected Danny to be one or two.
Right.
Bradley Longcore to be the other.
Yes.
And it was, well, why didn't Shuck pick just 4 Blue Devils to go with Danny? And then that would be it. That's all he needs. Well, that's not quite the case.
Yes.
So
I enjoyed some of that. I like you having to, defend yourself from time to time.
True.
God of Blue Devil Jim when you walk in there. It's nice to see you catch it a little bit.
I did.
From time to time.
I caught a little bit. So.
Well, you, sir, as my guest, get the first pick in the draft. Do you want to go girls or boys first?
Let's go girls first. We did boys. What did we do last time?
We did girls first.
Okay, then we go boys first. All right, we just got to go different.
The floor is yours, and I will. Before we get into your pick, I will just leave the caveat out there. There's a lot of meat still left on the bone.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. So I've debated this.
Okay.
Do you go front to back or back to front? If you're going to build a 5-player team, do you start with the point guard or do you start with a big man? And I've gone back and forth of which way I want to go. But I'm going back to front.
Okay.
So I'm starting big.
Okay.
He's yet to play a game this year.
Okay.
We know he will be soon.
Yes, this is a good point choice.
Here in the next few weeks. He's a kid with a huge upside. I know college coaches are anxious to see him on the floor.
Did he give Cole Serta all he could handle last year?
He did, and he would have beat Cole Serta if he had been healthy in that for that entire game. And that would be Jake Wallingford.
That's a really good pick. And if you're starting, that was something that I thought about.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe Matt would let that sit on the table because I think, we don't have many bigs of gravity out there this year. And he would be the one who most traditionally you could play down low, you could run some of your offense through. He makes a lot of sense. Because you've done that, this makes my choice easier. I'm building back to front.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Connor Watson, the point guard, the outstanding point guard from Macomb, who, what are they, 15-5, I think at last that I looked. They played really well. He is a traditional point guard, but he is so fast and so quick to the hole that he can find ways to create opportunities for himself and as well for his team. And I just really kind of like the way he navigates and runs a team. So we're off the board. You with a center, me with a point guard. Where do you go next, Matt?
Well, I'm going to counter you with a point guard.
Okay.
Anyone who can beat Collinsville on Collinsville's floor in the sectional at the buzzer and then continue to improve the next year belongs on my team.
Okay.
Ralph Wires.
You've given yourself some Quincy Hyde cover. I think that's wisely
But he deserves
done.
it. It's not just because of Quincy Hyde.
Yeah, he has played as well as any
Yes,
point
he
guard
has.
in the area. And one of the things I like about Ralph this year is his self-control seems to have risen exponentially from where he was a year ago.
Yeah.
And I think that makes him a really good point guard. I'm going to go, I don't know, Prairie preview this week. You know, I don't, and if we were drafting football, this would be a no-brainer.
I was hoping to sneak him through.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Brian Deeker with what he's done.
Makes sense.
I mean, and I saw that electric game he had down at the Winchester Invitational where he had 20 points in the first half. He is a guy that basically his range, I don't think people realize how good his three-point range is because he was hitting shots from 26 feet when he needed to at the end of that game to try to get them back into things. So he's a pretty special talent in all sorts of things. Again, might be the most instinctive linebacker you and I have covered in a couple of years. I think he makes a really interesting 3 for me.
Yeah.
I'm leaving the 2 open because I have some options there.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go 2 here.
Okay.
Okay, I've got the big, I've got the point.
Yeah.
I need somebody who can shoot it a little bit, can slash a little bit, can put the ball in the hole. Cole Beheimer,
Very good pick.
Brown County.
Yeah. You want to go Brown County? I'll go Brown County with you.
Okay.
Because if you like Brian Deeker, you're really going to like Colby Ward, the way he's playing right now.
You've done it to me twice.
Yes, and the one thing that was noticeable about Colby Ward coming back is his speed beating the ball to the passing lane. So, and quite frankly, I have the best set of linebackers on the field right now with Ward and Deeker. Gives you a certain physicality. You know me. I play basketball like I play football.
I know.
So I think those two guys playing off Connor Watson is a pretty good spot to be.
Well, you're going football related.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to my true love, and I'm going baseball related.
Okay.
And a guy who just has been, and it's because of how well he's played lately.
Okay.
He can play inside. He can battle. He can hit a fastball.
Yeah, that's big.
Alex Canoyer.
Alex Canoyer's been out of his mind the last 2 weeks.
And that's why he's elevated himself to this position with me.
So I need a clarification, and I leave this totally up to you.
Okay.
Am I allowed Macon?
I guess because it's in your technically in your coverage area.
I'm going to take Boston Douglas, who
Okay.
probably has a really good chance to be the Clarence Cannon Conference Player of the Year. He's in that conversation. He gives me the bigger wing that I don't have because I went with 2 smaller wing type guys. I can play him at the 2. I'll play him off of that, and I kind of just like the athleticism that brings to the table.
Okay. So we're down to our last pick.
Our last pick here. There's a lot of good guys still on the table.
There are. And I'm a little biased here because I know who he's worked out with in the past.
Okay.
And I know I just think he's a burgeoning standout. And so I'm going young on this one with a sophomore.
Okay.
Preston Brewer.
It's an interesting pick. I like that. I like that a lot, Matt Chuckman, and I did not expect that name. I was thinking I was going to hear, I don't know. That was not what I was.
Were you thinking I was going to go Dominic Clay?
Well, maybe, or Wyatt Lipkeman. I thought those two guys.
Well, that was Wyatt Lipkeman was my, I was debating that one.
Okay.
But
because I know you like his game.
Yes, I do.
And I've heard you talk about Griggsville Perry, and I thought, okay, Matt's saving that for last.
No.
All right, I have one more pick. I'm going to go wild card with you here because I don't have a big, and you have a really good big. And he hasn't played a lot yet. But Deion Doyle at Macomb is 6'6" and a rim runner of Michael Wilson type proportions. I like the guys that can block shots and contest. He'll be my middle in this one.
Okay.
So there you have it. I like our 2 teams.
I do too.
I think that
I think people will debate us.
Yes, as
which,
well they
which
should.
is great. And probably when I sit down, when I get in the truck, when I leave here and go off to my next assignment, I'm probably going to go, I should have picked him. There's somebody's going to pop in my head that I totally
went
forgot.
early on Deeker just because I saw the Prairie State profile today because I knew you were going that way.
Waiting.
I know.
See, that's what I shouldn't have done.
Yes.
I screwed up there.
Yes.
Brian, I'm sorry.
All right, girls' side. I give you the number 1 pick. Who was the best player we didn't take the last time around?
For me, it was pretty easy in my mind. And again, we talked front to back to front.
Yeah.
I'm going back to front. Give me Taylor Foey.
And you and I had talked about, hey, if you went Taylor Foey, I was going Kendra King, but vice versa. I think there's enough bigs where I'm going to wait on the bigs for a second. Lauren Miller. the way she's played right now.
I thought I could sneak that one through to number 2 or number 3.
And there were moments.
I thought you'd counter me with a big.
There were moments where she was against Unity, where you were just, and I know she doesn't shoot it like she's going to shoot it down the road yet from distance. She is so long.
Yes.
I mean, you can't stop her. Yeah. And I talked to a coach this week who said, of all the guys that you didn't pick on the girls' side, Lauren Miller was probably the one that he would have taken.
And see, and everybody came up to me and was like, why didn't Taylor Foey get picked?
Well, but I get that because Taylor Foey has been really, really good, and there's not a lot of noise in her game, which I really like.
Yeah.
So it's on you now.
See, and it's tough. It's tough because I'm trying to think of. Plus, I want to give love to both sides of the river.
Sure.
So there's that factor. But I think I got to stay in town because I want a guard who can do multiple things. Okay. Give me Sage Stratton.
I think that, from a point guard standpoint, that's really good. B, from somebody who has the defensive moxie to go out and just doesn't care who she guards.
Right.
You're going to get all of that all of the time. I really like that pick and a lot. I'm going to go some speed here to go along with Lauren Miller. And I know she's not 100% healthy, but I love Nariah Clay. I love what she brings to the table. And in terms of balance, leadership, unflappability, I think Nariah is one of the most unflappable players that you can put out there.
I would
Plus,
agree with that.
Proven state champion in softball.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Nariah Clay, and Lauren Miller will be my 2. We have the start of 2 very good teams right here.
We do, and I know I'm going to screw it up here somewhere along the way. But that's okay.
That's what it's for.
Okay, I've been debating this.
Okay.
And I've been debating, things like length.
Yeah.
How important is that to what you want to build here? And I think I want some more length.
Okay.
Especially if I've got a defensive bulldog in Sage Stratton, I've got a post player that can battle in Taylor Foey. Give me somebody who can disrupt things defensively and also score. Give me Vanessa Markert.
You mean Ashley?
Ashley Markert.
I'd give you Vanessa Markert.
I was going to do that.
I'd give you Vanessa Markert, the all-time leading scorer in Brown County history. But yes, I get it. She is as long as the day is long, and and feisty on the inside. So I do love that pick for you. It sets a certain standard. I'm also going to go Brown County because she's sitting there on the table. The 20 points per game from Claire Flynn is tough to walk away from. So I will go Claire Flynn, and I love my Claire Flynn, Nariah Clay backcourt right now. Love it.
Yeah. And you should.
Yeah.
So, okay, so where do we go next? There's still some talent on the table.
You're long.
I'm long. I think I'm going to stick in Illinois.
Okay.
Now I'm going to switch it up. Give me Macy Fisher.
I like that pick. I do. Macy Fisher is somebody who, goodness, I mean, you want to add more shooting.
Yeah.
You've got more shooting. You want to add some defensive length. She's a really good.
So just the combination. She shoots it really well. I've got bigs. So, I've got a bulldog. I think it fits well. I think she fits well with this group.
A couple of players out there with some state pedigree that I really like. I'm going to go Young. I love her game. I love her toughness. I don't think she gets near enough credit within the Clarence Cannon Conference. I love Belle Roush. And I think because she plays with Miranda, sometimes people overlook her.
True.
I think there's a lot still left in her game. And developmentally, I'm not sure she's not going to be one of the very best players in that class when we're all said and done. And maybe there's a Clarence Cannon Conference Player of the Year in her future somewhere. Belle Roush is really good.
So here's my dilemma.
Okay.
I could load up on you and just go big, big, big.
You're going to take Kendra King, aren't you?
That's where I'm leaning. So I could really go big and just say, okay, try to get to the basket against us.
It's going to be hard.
And that's the way I'm going to go.
Oh, you're killing me. Well, and here's the thing I love about Kendra.
And she's a ginger. I got to go for that.
Here's the thing I love about Kendra, because we can talk about how she is the strongest person to the basket probably in our area in terms of you don't want to get in her way.
Right.
Her game from above the arc now, she stretches you.
And nobody sees that at first.
Yeah.
They just see the size and the physicality, but she's building a complete game.
I don't think I can match your size, so I may have to play 5 out on this, just based on what you're doing. What does that leave on the table for me? I think, you know what? I think I'm going to take a shot blocker. I think I've changed my mind.
Ooh, okay.
I think I'm going to go athletic.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go with Millie Mosey Williams.
Really?
I think you know what?
Okay.
I got enough scoring.
Okay.
I want somebody who's going to jump up and alter shots the way you've got Ashley Markert.
Yep.
And if you've got Taylor Foley, I'm going to need somebody to get a hand in her face. I don't think enough has been said about the job that Millie Mosey Williams has done as a totally defensive player and a huge rebounder for who they are. I really like her fit. And like I said, I thought there were bigs for days on the board that we could have taken.
Yeah.
She's one that I could take at the 5 spot and feel pretty good about. By the way, we left Reagan Reed on the table.
I know. I was debating that when
Sophia Schaefer is still on the table.
I know. There were several that I debated, but I was trying to do something a little different.
I like the way we did this, though.
It's just, is it the
Blair Efting's still on the table.
I know. I'm sure I'll catch
Blair Efting.
heck about that.
Yeah.
And that's
I couldn't go with another guard, though. You were going to overwhelm me.
I just decided let's just go big and see how it plays out.
Well, that was fun. And I can't wait till next year till we do this again. We may have to incorporate this for football season too. We'll be here all day. Ladies and gentlemen,
how much fun would that be?
The great Matt Shuckman from Muddy River. Anything on the immediate radar for good
Obviously,
folks?
he will have wall-to-wall coverage of the Quincy Shootout this weekend. Next week, I'm going to kickstart my top 25 moments of 25 years covering Quincy High School basketball.
Awesome. That's very cool.
So this is my 25th season covering Blue Devil basketball.
You look too young to have done that much time.
Yeah. So
the great Matt Shuckman, everybody. Hey, again, thank you so much for the support of this podcast.
Yes.
Let's see if we can break last week's record, which it was 600 YouTube views alone. I didn't even look at the proper podcast.
Great.
You are a treasure.
I do know I had one high school basketball official come up to me at a game and say, hey, while I was driving to the game tonight, I listened to you guys.
That's awesome.
So isn't that great?
It is awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, we like that. Thank you so much for your support. And again, as always, speaking for Matt Shuckman, our big thanks to Advanced Physical Therapy and the great folks there for their unyielding support of Tri-State local sports and all the time and effort that those folks put into making this a better community. So we appreciate you. We appreciate all of you for tuning in. Please let us have it about our picks and about where we screwed up. We can't wait to hear about it. And we'll see you right back here in 2 weeks. Matt Shuckman and I will be talking about the postseason, which, believe it or not, is right around the corner.
And at that time, we'll be able to talk some postseason wrestling, too, going into the postseason.
Oh, that'll be fun. Yes. Hey, we need to do that next time. Remind me, wrestling, front and center.
Maybe we'll do our fantasy wrestling draft.
I like it. Oh, now the mind and the gears are working. We'll see you then, everybody.